So let me start this by talking about my dear friend, Gregory Locke. He's a Christian hate preacher who has said horrible things like autism is caused by the devil and things like that. And this week, his circus tent that he calls a church was destroyed because of the 3 millimeters of snow that I assume hit Tennessee. I think it was like 7 inches. I'm going to show you. He made a 5 minute Facebook video where he explained this. I'm going to show you like a 1 minute cut of what he said in that stream, and then we'll talk about it after it's done.
I want to let you guys know that the tent has withstood a grave amount of damage. But with all of the snow accumulation and the wind and more snow to come, the tent is just not able to handle the weight of it. This is inside the tent, which means there is a giant, see all that snow coming in there? A giant amount of snow that is on top of the tent. And so what happened is the walls over here have buckled at a complete like 45-degree angle, and then all of our framing is being bent from the inside, and then it's, as you can see, the whole tent is just beginning to implode. The integrity of the structure is worthless. Insurance pretty much, will cover damages of equipment that we lose, but it's not going to do anything with the tent. And we're probably, just to get fixed, everything that I'm looking at right now is going to be an astronomical amount of money. I mean, we're talking probably $150,000. Pray for the haters that are going to rejoice over this mild setback.
I think he's talking about all of us. I don't know. I'm not rejoicing over it, mostly because I'm glad no one got hurt. But also, I mean, dude, if this happened anywhere else, you know exactly what he would be saying. God was sending a sign that he wanted these people destroyed. But when it happens to him, of course, God was nowhere in sight. Which I just want to point out. Just to summarize what happened, he said there was a grave amount of danger. He said there's a hole in the roof because I guess the snow fell on the circus tent, causing it to sag and then cave under the weight. The HVAC system, which I didn't know a tent had, that was destroyed. He said the insurance would cover any equipment damage, but fixing the actual tent and whatever surrounds it is going to come out of pocket, and that comes to around $150,000. I don't know if I believe that amount, but all right, whatever. He did dismiss everyone like me who might mock him because he said prophetically setbacks are divine setups, which is a very convenient way of saying everything happens for a reason. But then he also told people they could make donations because, of course, he did. And here's the thing. I just want to reiterate this. I'm not rejoicing over the damage. That's like attacking someone for what they look like. I don't care. It's the substance that bothers me. And the circus tent itself, damaging that is not a problem. If you're worried about the integrity, you got to look at the guy talking on stage, not the tent itself. You know what I mean? But I feel like this is a good time to discuss why this circus tent is there and why we shouldn't be surprised that this happened to it. Because if you're not sure where this circus tent even came from, I'm going to share this with you. This is an article from a couple of years ago. Because in 2020, this is in the Charlotte Observer, but this article was everywhere. This is during COVID, of course. Pastor said he will go to jail before closing his church. And one of the things Locke pointed out is he said, "We are staying open," church leader Greg Locke said Monday in a Facebook video that has gotten more than 6,000 comments. "We are packed to capacity. You ain't got to wear a mask. We're not social distancing." He did have a physical building in Mount Juliet, Tennessee. But it was, it was slowly starting to outgrow itself. And then when COVID happened and those restrictions were in effect, where it said you can't have large gatherings because we're still trying to work out what exactly this disease is. It seems like it's airborne. So we're limiting how many people can be in one spot at the same time. We are encouraging people to wear masks. But he was one of those several preachers who was like, how dare you tell me I'm not allowed to do everything I want all the time? So he said, if you're not allowing indoor gatherings, then I will create a tent and do outdoor gatherings because there's no restrictions on those. And it got even worse than that because he actually put up a sign outside the church. Check this one out. This is the sign he put outside the church at the time. Real sign outside his circus tent. This is a mask-free church campus. Kindly remove them or stay in your car. We celebrate faith over fear. Which is a dumb thing to say. One, because he has no idea why masks are important. But also, he's basically saying if you have the audacity to try and protect yourself in the middle of a pandemic, you're kicked out of church, which I feel like Jesus would have something to say about. But this is how the circus tent got started. He set it up to avoid COVID restrictions. And it never bothered him that his COVID denial arguably led to the death of one of his own members of the congregation. This is the same Greg Locke who famously in 2020, in like December of 2020, he was actually interviewed on CNN. And the reporters asked him basically, okay, you're going on and on about how there's no pandemic. What's a pandemic? And he couldn't answer the question. This is part of the transcript. El Reeve was the interviewer, but look at this. Locke, I'm saying the sickness is real. I'm saying the pandemic is not. I don't understand what you mean when you say pandemic's not real. The pandemic is not real. What do you think a pandemic is? Not COVID-19, but what do you think a pandemic is? It's no pandemic. And someone off screen yells, I think we're stuck on the pandemic question too many times. Well, why can't you answer it? Says the reporter. It's ridiculous. I did, says Locke. There's no pandemic. COVID-19 is not a pandemic. But what is a pandemic then? Not what we're experiencing. I'm 44 years old. We've not had one in my lifetime, so I don't know. And this is not it. He has no idea what he's talking about, but man, he has the confidence of a mediocre white dude. But yeah, that's why he set up the tent. He doesn't understand the pandemic, but he knows it's not happening. He doesn't know what masks do, but he doesn't want you to wear a mask, not even as a precaution. He won't allow it in his church. And then when he got in his circus tent in 2020, mind you, this is like middle of 2020, so Trump is running for re-election. He just becomes more political than ever before. He was always a conservative preacher, anti-abortion, anti-gay, but now he got political. And then he realized if you fight against whatever the pandemic narrative is, and you are promoting Donald Trump from the pulpit, there's a lot of really dumb people who are going to come to your church. And he realized that's good for him. So he's live streaming services. A bunch of MAGA cultists show up at his circus tent. And it just gets bigger and bigger. And now these become like circus road shows. And now he leaned more into science denial and conspiracy theories. Over the next couple of years, he started complaining about witches a lot more. Now he does deliverance ministry, where his whole thing is, I'm going to get rid of all the demons, which is a very easy thing to do because demons don't actually exist. So you just say, there's a demon there and there and there. And then you just say, poof, they're gone. And it's like, well, yeah, they are gone because they never existed. He said in another article, so over the course of the next couple of years, I should say, this tent, it didn't work. It didn't do all the things he needed it to do, mostly because everyone in the community started complaining. One thing they complained about was all the noise it was making. So this is an article from a local news station where he said, over the weekend, the church put up a new tent. in an effort to help soundproof the church. Look at the date on this. This is February 13th or 14th, 2023, like a year ago. He's like, he put up a new tent in an effort to help soundproof the church. However, neighbors who live directly across the street said they haven't noticed much of a difference yet when it comes to the noise. So, like, not only is this outdoor tent dragging in all these mega people, which, whatever, that's their right, it's creating traffic problems for people living in the community, which his church was never zoned for. And it's also creating loud sounds, because what does Locke do at his church services? He just grabs a microphone and yells loudly about whatever conspiracy theory he's mad about that day. So everyone can hear him because there's no walls in this place. But he just keeps doing this. And in 2021, I should say, there was a tornado in that area. Sorry, I'm going out of order here, but there was a tornado in the region. And this is from the Tennessee Holler, hilarious Twitter account if you don't follow them. But this is their tweet at the time. Pastor Grifter Greg Locke, who says Trump is still president and calls the pandemic a hoax, peddling disinformation even as members of his congregation have died of COVID, had his church tent in Mount Juliet hit by the tornado. He says over $100,000 in equipment damage. He's following the same script he did in 2021 when his church was hit by a tornado. It was destroyed because the infrastructure wasn't good, and he needed donations to make up for it. Like, you would think that would have been a wake-up call to rebuild. If you're doing the tent, then rebuild the tent with the future in mind and with your neighbors in mind and make it strong. But no, he just keeps re-erecting the same tent with all the same problems. This is also from a recent article, and this is what he says now. This is from, again, 2023, early 2023, when he had to put up another tent for the soundproofing thing. It's the same size, and we will build walls on the inside and insulate it. So we are just doing our best to fix the collateral damage of the sound for the community, Locke said. And just like his idol Donald Trump, the wall was never built because everyone can still hear everything he does. Like, the sound complaints have not gone away. The traffic has not gotten better. Locke is actually facing multiple lawsuits. His neighbors are suing him over the noise and the water runoff concerns. The county is suing him for violating zoning laws. Those have not been settled yet. Like, those are still in the court. But basically, his circus tent has made life worse for everyone outside his church. And I would argue everyone inside his church too. Like, they don't want to deal with his BS anymore. And he makes it worse because he's just a selfish guy who believes anything and everything he does in the name of Jesus is inherently justified. So now his tent has been destroyed yet again. This time it's because of the snow. He said in that video he would be preaching again this Sunday. And like, he's been saying that all week. And I don't know. I don't know how you fix the tent in a way that is safe for the people inside in the course of a week when there's like $150,000 worth of damage. I am genuinely scared for the people who are going to show up on Sunday. Another thing he said on Twitter this week, and this is worth pointing out, he wrote this week, the Courtyard by Marriott here in Mount Juliet has given us a large gathering room, platform, and sound system for our Wednesday night service. That was yesterday. Like, I don't know if this is him lying about what happened. Like, did he rent space in a local hotel, or did the local hotel actually give him for free, like, a ballroom to use? Because it is possible they read in the news somewhere, oh no, a local pastor had his church destroyed. Why don't we donate free space on a Wednesday night when no one's renting out the ballroom? Because it's easy for us to do, and we'll get good publicity out of it. Like, I could understand the hotel trying to do that sort of thing. But also, I don't know if they realize who Greg Locke is and all the horrible, horrible things he has said. I literally called this Courtyard by Marriott on, I think it was Tuesday night, because I wanted to ask them, like, do you know who this guy is? But I called it Tuesday night, and the manager was not there, and the pleasant dude who picked up the phone had no clue what I was referring to. So, like, not his fault. But they did have a meeting at the hotel in one of the ballrooms. That happened. I don't know what's going to happen this Sunday, though. If he is actually meeting in that church, I am worried for his congregation, and I don't think that's going to go well. By the way, people have asked him, like, okay, now COVID is, I mean, in theory, it's long over. They asked him, why don't you actually build a church now that that stuff is over with? There are no restrictions anymore. And this is what he said. We grew so fast that a tent is really the only option. Even if we broke ground today, we would still need to be in a tent for 2 to 3 years. It's like, I don't think any church is that big that it can't function without a circus tent. I think that's just you. But that's what he's doing now. Again, and I'm worried about Sunday because unlike him, I want his congregation to be safe. I know he doesn't care about their health and safety, but I do because I don't know, I'm not bound by Jesus to do the worst thing possible. You know what's really funny about all this? Greg Locke, as you might guess, is a climate denier. And like a couple of years ago, you may remember, it was 2022, December, this misogynist on YouTube, Andrew Tate, he was arrested in another country. He's been, I think it was arrested for like alleged trafficking. It's just horrible stuff. At the time, Greg Locke chimed in because Andrew Tate had gotten into a Twitter beef with Greta Thunberg, the climate activist. Andrew Tate said something stupid. Greta dunked on him because she's a young girl, so she knows how to do that. And then Greg Locke chimed in with this tweet. So I guess we've reached the place where if you publicly disagree with the left's favorite paid actor brat, Greta Thunberg, you get arrested. Wow, climate change stupidity has reached peak insanity. And man, that is just, leave that there for a moment because it's gloriously stupid. She's not paid, she's not an actor, whatever. But also, climate change stupidity has reached peak insanity. Why do you think the weather in Tennessee is so bad? It's because climate change leads to more extreme weather events, and Greg Locke just got hit by an extreme weather event. So I don't know. I don't believe in God, but man, this guy needs to start believing in karma or something. So again, I'm glad everyone's safe. I don't think they will be if he just keeps leaving his circus tent up for without actually taking care of it in a way that is structurally sound for the people inside. So we'll see what happens this weekend.